Hello, American Patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight. You chose to be here, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Before we get into that, let me just say that if you're new here, please go to douglasducote.com and sign up with your email address. It is free, so you get my newsletter, information about when videos are out and when we're doing the live show, and places that I will be in the coming weeks and months as we go through these trying times in America. Also, would like to say, for those of you that believe in the power of prayer, my Uncle Tommy right now is in hospice care. He was just transferred from the hospital to there for his final moments on God's planet. And so please say a prayer for the family. I'm going to go there tomorrow and hopefully get an opportunity to see him before he passes. But this is my mother's sister's husband. Great man. He's a military veteran. He's a wonderful husband, father, and grandfather. Just some amazing kids. So please keep him and the family in your thoughts and prayers. Have you noticed yet what's happening in Washington, D.C.? There are more troops deployed right now in just Washington, D.C. than we have deployed in Afghanistan and over in Iraq. I wonder where they were for the past 4 years as we've watched Antifa and BLM burn and loot and riot all across this nation. The same people that called for the National Guard to come out in Washington, D.C., just recently, you will recall when Antifa and BLM marched on Washington and went outside the gates of the White House and demanded Trump be removed, and they actually even burnt a church. They were saying that Trump calling out the National Guard proved that he was nothing more than a dictator and that he was this horrible race-baiting person that is not wanted in America. Every time the president has talked about calling out the National Guard to squash these Antifa riots, the Democrats pile on him and slam him for doing so. Yet they're the same ones right now that want the National Guard to protect them. They also want law enforcement to protect them. Some of the same members of our Congress that have called for defunding the police, abolishing certain agencies within law enforcement. Yeah, they're the same ones right now that not only are calling to be protected, but in some cases, which I will share with you soon here in tonight's show, are actually once again saying horrible things about men and women in law enforcement. And one last thing I want to mention to you, if you haven't figured it out yet, President Trump is stepping down. President Trump is not going to stay in Washington, D.C. He will move on, regardless of what happens in the Senate with impeachment. I'm sure they're going to just write it off and not impeach him in the Senate. But he made it very clear from the message I listened to yesterday, and I'm sure many of you also did, when he addressed the inauguration coming up and how he wanted a peaceful transfer of power. Then the vice president came out today and basically reiterated that with law enforcement as they discussed about what's going to take place on January 20th. So let's get right into where we're at with this. I want to start with I want to start with that race baiting bigot Don Lemon at CNN. You guys know who he is, right? Miranda Devine. She is a New York Post contributor, also is from time to time on Fox News. She slammed CNN's Don Lemon as toxic for claiming the violence during the summer's anti-police riots were justified because it was built on facts, unlike the Capitol riot. She goes on to say, you can't compare what happened this summer to what happened at the Capitol. What are you talking about? Don Lemon says, those are two different things. One was built on people, on racial justice, and those are the facts. Go look at them. What happened at the Capitol on Wednesday was built on a lie perpetrated by the president, Lemon said Tuesday night during his handoff with Como Primetime, Chris Como. Political violence is never justified, Miranda said, no matter what the cause. But there you have Don Lemon saying that it is justified, that you can use violence. Several Democrat-run cities were plagued with anti-police riots and looting, where people died and businesses were destroyed over several months following the police-related death of George Floyd. He doesn't get to choose his own facts, and he doesn't get to justify violence and continue on CNN, which should be ashamed of itself, to stoke those fires, she added. It's so divisive and is such a hypocritical double standard. It really just causes more division and will cause more violence. Just like the Capitol Hill violence was based on a false premises of overturning the election results, Devine said the summer protests were based on the fiction that police are racist. Republicans and conservatives have been consistent the whole time. They were against the violence last year and the years before, and could not believe that the same people now who are ushering in the National Guard to protect them in Washington were calling on the President Trump a fascist, they were calling him, and for calling the National Guard in. You have to stop stoking and condoning and welcoming and normalizing violence. And we saw that for months and months and months over the past few years, she concluded. And that is so very true. I, like many conservatives and Republicans, have been preaching about this for quite some time now. Good Lord, go back and look at some of the videos I've done asking, where is the Department of Justice? Where is the FBI? When these Antifa and Black Lives Matter domestic terrorists are running around, look, they are responsible for the deaths of several thousand innocent people, the deaths of several hundred police officers, several thousand police officers that will never work again because of the injuries they sustained in Washington, D.C., up in Atlanta, in Washington State, in Oregon, everywhere Antifa shows up and BLM shows up, people get injured. And where's the FBI? Where's the National Guard? Where is the outrage over what we have witnessed take place across this nation under the Trump administration? I've been asking that for quite some time. Can't get any answers. I've reached out to the FBI many times. I've even went as far as to do their homework for them and share information that I had about domestic terrorists and those that are out trashing and wanting to see harm done to Trump supporters, calling for BLM and Antifa to show up at Trump rallies with AR-15s and take care of business against those racist Trump supporters. And I do know for a fact that the FBI at least went and questioned, in this particular case, the police chief of that town where this person lived. I even gave them his address, his full name, everything they needed. And nothing was done. They're still, as I speak, putting out no merit BS about conservatives and Republicans and calling for the death of us. But yet, now we have this huge outpouring. I get it. 5 people died. 5 innocent lives were lost. That should have never happened. Those that perpetrated this, those that entered that Capitol and started doing violence, guess what? It is a known fact, which I will share with you here shortly, that some of them were Democrats, some of them were Antifa, some of them were Black Lives Matter. That is a fact. And I will share that with you. Here's what that accomplished. Basically, it ran Donald Trump out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Because had the breach not happened at the Capitol, we had enough senators and members of Congress to oppose the results in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona and Nevada. They were going to contest that. And we stood a chance of getting some of those results, especially where they made up the rules in the middle of the night to side with Joe Biden, which is against the law. We had the opportunity that day to have changed history and made things better for conservatives and Republicans. And now, basically, you shit on it by going and doing what you did. Now, those that were doing peaceful protesting, I'm 110% for that. But I don't care who you are, conservative, Republican, liberal, Democrat. When you start doing violence and hurting other people, you need to be called out on it and you need to be charged with the crime. It's not acceptable. Just like it's not acceptable for the FBI and the Department of Justice to only go after Trump supporters and not Antifa and not Black Lives Matter. It's absolutely disgusting. Moving right along, the Black Lives Matter activist who was seen storming the U.S. Capitol on January 6th has been charged, the Department of Justice said Thursday. A new court filing says John Earl Sullivan, 26, told FBI agents last week that he was at the Capitol when the breach happened. He said he entered through a window that had been broken out. He also said he was present when Ashib Babbitt, an Air Force veteran, was shot dead by a U.S. Capitol police officer as she tried to climb into the House Speaker's lobby through a window. Sullivan showed agents some of the footage he captured inside the building, which he and others entered illegally. Video shows Sullivan and others breaking through a barricade with the Utah man shouting, ready for this? There are so many people. Let's go. This bitch is ours. Fuck yeah. We accomplished this shit. We did this together. Fuck yeah. We're all part of history. Let's burn this bitch down. Yep. He was later heard encouraging protesters to climb a wall to get to an entrance to the Capitol and was seen entering the building. During one conversation with others while inside, Sullivan said, "We got to get this bitch burned." At other times, he said, among other things, "It's our house, bitch, and we are getting this fucker." He joined the crowd trying to open the doors to another part of the Capitol, telling people, "Hey guys, I have a knife," and asking them to let him get in front. He did not make it to the doors. He later tried to get to the offices that were guarded on the speaker, telling them, "Bro, I've seen people out there get hurt." Sullivan spoke to a slew of media outlets after the breach, including CNN and ABC. He told the Epoch Times that he took steps to blend in with the crowd so that he didn't get beat up. He said he's a known activist in the community and has been a member of the far-left communist group Antifa. He told the Epoch Times that he knows of plans to storm the Capitol have been going on in underground chats and things like that. He posted information about the plans on his social media, but didn't inform law enforcement. I'm not a snitch, he said. Sullivan has posted in support of Black Lives Matter. He leads a group called Insurgents USA, which says it was founded in the wake of the death of George Floyd, a black man, in police custody in Minneapolis last year. The lack of care for the human life was unacceptable, so we set out to end police brutality. We then set out to empower and uplifting Black and Indigenous people, the group's website says. Sullivan was charged with rioting and criminal mischief in Provo, Utah, where he was living, based on his activities around protests last year in which a person was shot and injured. Sullivan was charged this week with unlawful entry, disorderly conduct, and attempting obstruction of law enforcement. So here we have, mixed in with the Trump supporters at a rally, known members of Antifa and Black Lives Matter that were part of inciting what took place. The FBI took him down for this incident. What about all the others? Don't know if you saw this or not, but it's still up. An alarming video addressing the attack on Capitol Hill. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, said that she did not know if she was going to make it to the end of the day alive, after Trump supporters and extremist groups stormed the building where members of Congress were certifying the Electoral College votes. Between descriptions of her experience and that of fellow squad member, Representative Anita Presley, some are suspecting that there are those on the inside who cannot be trusted. I myself did not feel safe to go to the extraction point because there were QAnon and white supremacist sympathizers and, frankly, white supremacist members of Congress in the extraction point who I know and who I felt disclosed my location, who would create opportunities to allow me to get hurt, kidnapped, etc., AOC said during her Instagram Live on Tuesday night. And also, I didn't even feel safe around other members of Congress. At another point in the live stream, AOC said that she did not feel it was an exaggeration to say that many members of the House were almost assassinated. She did not provide further details about her experience on January 6th, but did say that she wasn't sure she could be given, under the security issues, any more information. Throughout the violence that took place, many Congress members were forced to evacuate either to designated safe areas or to barricade themselves in offices. There was a sense that something was wrong, AOC continued, obviously with the violence, but there was a sense that something was wrong from inside. AOC went on to say, but next to that, there was also acts of betrayal, and to run in the Capitol, in our nation's capital, and not knowing if a police officer is there to help you or harm you is also quite traumatizing. So I assume that now she has PTSD. You know, here's the same woman who also said lies and horrible things about law enforcement on our border. When she went down there and toured a few years ago, I did videos on that as well, where she went in, took a tour of the cages that Trump didn't build, Obama did, where they were housing kids so they could find out who they belonged to and who their parents were, said that she felt intimidated by those agents because they had scary guns on them. They're Border Patrol agents. They're supposed to have guns on them. She also went on to lie and say that they were catcalling her and saying sexist things towards her and about her. None of which, by the way, was true, because there were video of the entire congressional tour that took place with her and AOC, or with her and Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib and several other Democrat members that were part of that trip. It was all a lie to once again stir up people against the brave men and women in law enforcement. And here she is again saying that she didn't know who to trust and which cops would actually help protect her. And then goes on to call anybody that supports Trump or anyone that is a Republican member of Congress a white supremacist. Same thing that Ilhan Omar is saying, same thing that Anita Presley is saying. And that's absolutely disgusting. And the rhetoric is not going to work, AOC. It's just not going to work. Remember Eric Swalwell? Sure you do. He's that person that Nancy Pelosi refuses to remove from his committees, who was sharing information in bed with a Chinese spy. That's right. FBI, where's your investigation into that? Department of Justice, where's your investigation into Eric Swalwell? Democrat California Representative Eric Swalwell, who remains on the House Intelligence Committee despite foggy ties to a Chinese spy, and who will serve as the impeachment manager, associated President Trump with, are you ready for this? Osama bin Laden, in an interview on Tuesday in response to a question about President Trump's culpability for the Capitol siege last Wednesday. Swalwell began by immediately bringing up the terrorist leader. Osama bin Laden did not enter U.S. soil on September 11th, but it was widely acknowledged that he was responsible for inspiring the attack on our country, Swalwell told PBS NewsHour. And the president, with his own words, using the word fight with the speaker and he assembled that day, who called for trial by combat and said we have to take names and kick ass. That is hate speech that inspired and radicalized people to storm the Capitol. And Swalwell claimed that many of the people arrested in connection with the rioting stated that they had been called there by the president. NewsHour host Judy Woodruff immediately followed up by asking, are you comparing President Trump to Osama bin Laden? I'm comparing the words of an individual who would incite and radicalize somebody, as Osama bin Laden did, to what President Trump did, Swalwell replied. You don't actually have to commit the violence yourself, but if you call others to violence, it's in itself a crime. He referred to a number of pro-Trump Republicans in Congress as the Ku Klux Klan and accused GOP lawmakers of condoning terrorists in response to them voicing election fraud concerns. While he's been vocal with colorful criticism of his Republican colleagues in recent days, he's largely remained mum on his ties to suspected Chinese spy Fang Fang, ignoring questions from the media and calls by fellow lawmakers to step down from his role on the Intel Committee in the wake of the security lapse. So, let's see. If you're a Republican, if you're a conservative, if you support members of law enforcement, if you're for securing our borders, if you support our president, you are a racist, you're a white supremacist, you're a member of the KKK, even if you're a member of Congress, according to these batshit crazy Democrats. This is insane. And the drums keep beating. And they're not going to slow down. I've been calling them out for over 4 years now with the hateful rhetoric that comes out of their mouth. And sadly, for the most part, Republicans that are in Congress just let it go in one ear and out the other. Oh, well, nobody's listening to them. They're listening now, aren't they? Now the FBI is once again going full bore against anyone that voted red, while completely ignoring what Antifa and BLM have done in the past 4 years. Where was the FBI and the Department of Justice when we watched on our own television screens live buildings burning in the background with a CNN reporter saying that the protests here are peaceful, with a building burning behind you? Oh, because CNN said it? It must be peaceful? When they set police stations on fire, when they burnt a federal courthouse, when they burnt churches, when they burnt federal court or post office buildings, when they torched police cars, when they physically attacked and injured, and in some cases killed Trump supporters, and many, many police officers not only were injured for life, but also many died. I go back, way back, to where I saw this big shift, this big turn of hatred. And that was when Colin Kaepernick came out with the whole bullshit, hands up, don't shoot narrative, painting all cops as racist bigots that just want to go out and kill black youth. That's where it all took a turn. And then other Democrats and liberals jumping on that bandwagon and spreading that narrative. And then 4 years of attacking conservatives and Republicans. 4 years of calling us horrible names, physically hurting us, and doing things to take away our First Amendment rights, and will very soon, trust me, work on taking away your Second Amendment rights. What we did see happen last week was several police officers that actually sided with those that were protesting. And sadly, some of the protesters that turned into rioters physically hurt them. And 2 have now died. Not to mention the female veteran that was shot by a Capitol police officer. I don't think he was a Republican. And others. And many people injured and hurt, maimed for life. I go back to what I started with by reminding everyone that because of the breach that took place, that's it. We are labeled as racist bigots. We are labeled by the FBI and the Department of Justice as domestic terrorists. I did a video last week, and I challenge you to go back and take a look at this video. It's titled, "We the People Have Been Set Up." Watch that video. I did this video before the meeting on the 6th in Washington, D.C. to let you know what was going to happen in the event that you did damage and hurt people. I talk all about it in that video, what the outcome was going to be, and how you and us, everyone in the Trump movement, conservatives and Republicans, will be labeled as domestic terrorists. I laid it all out in that video, and I'll be damned if it didn't come true. Look, there's a lot of shit that I don't know. I'm not an expert on everything. Matter of fact, I'm only an expert on a few things. But I spent enough years serving with honor in law enforcement and in the United States military to see through the fog that was coming from Capitol Hill, to see through the fog that was building in front of the FBI and the Department of Justice. I was one of the first people to call for President Trump to get rid of all those members of the FBI that were horrible, that did and committed federal crimes. We read the text messages. We saw the phone calls. We watched them testify in front of Congress and then get away with it. James Comey, Loretta Lynch, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, you know who I'm talking about. The list just goes on and on and on. Once again, Democrats are treated one way by federal law enforcement supervisors, the leadership of the law enforcement of the DOJ and the FBI, and Republicans and conservatives are treated different. If you're going to go on this witch hunt that you're on to literally take out a group of people, in which, again, if you cause violence over there, you need to be. But if you're going to do that, FBI director, where in the fuck were you when Antifa and BLM destroyed shit all over this country? Why? I want to know why nothing was done. I want to know where you were at besides AWOL. Because you weren't where you should have been. And as we know, liberals have infiltrated the Department of Justice and the FBI. Hell, they infiltrated the Trump White House, for crying out loud, leaking everything he did. Phone calls, everything, words, no, it didn't matter. Every single hour of his presidency, from actually even before he was elected, was a coup attempt to remove him from office or not let him get into office. They never let up. Where was the FBI and the Department of Justice? We have sitting members of Congress outright lying. Where's the justice here? Well, look. According to the FBI, there is a whole bunch of chatter happening right now all over the internet, especially the dark web, where militia groups are supposedly getting ready to cause violence all over America. Now, whether or not there's any truth to that beats the shit out of me. I've seen the FBI just completely, utterly fuck up some shit in people's lives for no reason at all. Even a personal friend of mine, who they've yet to apologize for trying to destroy him and his family when they were wrong and they know they were wrong. And he never served a day in jail, nor was he ever handcuffed or charged with anything. But they led people to believe that he was a terrorist. Did a video on that too. Be sure you check it out if you haven't already. The bottom line is, just like with anything, the men and women in law enforcement or the military follow orders from their leaders. And when their leaders are corrupt, as I have no doubt Christopher Wray is, just like James Comey was, why he stayed there, why Trump did not fire that son of a bitch is beyond me. Why President Trump did not run the gamut and get rid of all of those Obama leftovers, every damn one of them, is beyond me. And when I would bring this up, people would say, oh, trust the plan, trust the plan. He's got this. He's way ahead of this, Doug. You know, he will be our president. He will continue to be, he will be reelected. It's not going to happen, my friends. And I'm not so much angry at President Trump for not doing what he should have done, which is cleared house on day one, as I am with Republicans that joined Democrats to spread a false narrative that he is responsible for what took place. When they refuse to share with you the tweets that many of us, to include myself, captured and shared with you from President Trump that day, telling you to be peaceful. Do not hurt our members of law enforcement. Do not destroy property. And even telling you why? Because we are the party of law and order. But that didn't matter. Didn't matter. The House went after him and said he incited a riot. And the House impeached him. Now we see what the Senate does. If the Senate does impeach him, well, what does it mean? It means that he will no longer get a paycheck as a former president. Big deal. He doesn't need it. He hasn't taken a paycheck for 4 years. He donates it to charity. So that doesn't matter. He will never be able to run for office again. That matters. And that's why they did this. That's why they're attempting to do this. It's the only way they can be assured that all the Democrats that were exposed over the last 4 years and Republicans aren't held accountable for their actions. Whatever you have planned between now and Inauguration Day, next week on the 20th, if it's to make the situation worse, shame on you. And I hope you get caught, and I hope you get charged. I don't need you. I don't need the likes of you. The conservative movement, Republicans don't need it. Because what you did on the Capitol sealed the deal for the president. It put the nail in the coffin, literally. You're responsible for him not continuing for the next 4 years. Every one of you that breached that Capitol, look in the mirror. You want to know why President Trump is not going to be sworn in on the 20th? You want to know why Joe Biden and his socialist agenda will be taken over? Look at yourself. And that's sad. Very, very sad. A lot of people that had no intentions on doing what took place got caught up in the moment with the cheering and and the people mixed in the crowd that we now know were Antifa and BLM, egging it on. And some of them just went in and didn't do anything. They didn't do any destruction of property. But the fact that they were in that Capitol building, which, belongs to us, the fact that they were in there, they're now looked at as domestic terrorists. They're being put on the no-fly zone. They're not going to be able to fly on an airplane again. Some of them are going to do jail time. Some of them will have crimes, federal crimes against them that will destroy their lives. I don't know what to tell you. I do know this much. I've been doing this, putting out YouTube videos for 10 years now. Been doing the Douglas Ducote show for not quite 2 years. And I've always said that violence is not the route to take. Unless you're being attacked, or your family's being attacked, or your property's being attacked, then defend it. And there are those that are on YouTube right now that are calling people like me and other conservatives, Republicans that are on YouTube domestic terrorists, that say we incite this stuff, that say we're the racist and the bigots. You know better. I know better. The other way that I've called for physical violence, and the only other way besides self-protection, is I've told you that if a city gets defunded, their law enforcement, if they defund their cops and they no longer have cops, then it's up to you to protect the innocent people of your city. Because if there's no law enforcement...
Could you please repeat it?
Can you please repeat what? I didn't say shit. Shut up, Siri. Go away. Sorry. When people are being attacked by Antifa and BLM, I've called for American patriots to show up at their rallies. And if you're attacked and the cops are told to stand down, like what we watched happen, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, then it's up to you to do your duty, to do your job, which is protect men, women, and children that are innocent. And don't allow them to kill them or beat them with baseball bats or hit them in the head with bricks like we've witnessed happen everywhere. Sadly, when people like me talk about those on the left that are doing horrible things, well, they just label us as the real problem. Go look at some of the first videos I ever did about Ilhan Omar. She hit the ground running saying that the worst problem in America were white people and that we were all racist. She's on record saying that the military, our U.S. military, are real terrorists. And she was allowed, along with Rashid Tlaib, to swear into Congress with their hand on the Quran and not the Bible. And they're still there spewing their no-merit, hateful rhetoric. And then we've got CNN and MSNBC and now Fox News siding with them and helping spread their propaganda. And now we have social media platforms removing conservatives and Republicans for speaking the truth while allowing Democrats and liberals to say anything they want if it's against conservatives, Republicans, or President Trump. Even calling for violence against Trump supporters. I personally led the FBI to the address of a person on YouTube calling for Antifa and BLM to show up at Trump rallies with weapons and take us out. And the FBI didn't do shit. Neither has YouTube, because they're still preaching their hate about all Trump supporters right this very moment. So, if you want to know why America, so many people on the right are angry and pissed off, look at the way our federal law enforcement treats Republicans and conservatives and the way they treat Democrats and liberals. It is an absolute nightmare of a difference, a 180. So, yeah, there's some angry people right now in America. And most of them, in fact, probably 99% of them, are conservatives and Republicans for the way that we've watched you treat us and continue to do so. I support and have always supported the men and women in law enforcement and our military. But to watch what's happening right now and the way we're being treated when you gave a free pass to all the Democrats and liberals for the last 4 years, everybody in the leadership of the FBI and the Department of Justice needs to fucking resign. You're not a cop. You're a disgrace to law enforcement and the men and women that you are in charge of. When you allow one group of people to do and say whatever the fuck they want, and the other one you fucking take down and put in prison and charge them with shit. And if you can't find nothing, then you start digging for other shit to find, like, oh, the Mueller investigation. When they couldn't find Russia collusion, instead of going, there's nothing there, no, they started digging deeper and deeper and deeper into everything of those persons of their lifestyle till they could find something. Tax cheat or a fib, and then prosecuted them to the full extent of the law. Didn't get upset because Trump pardoned them. What are you expecting to do? You should have never done to them what you did. And if you're going to do it, then do the same thing to the Democrats and liberals. Don't give them a free pass. Why is that happening? That's the biggest question I have today in the United States of America, is why? Why does our Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the Department of Justice have two fucking standards? One for the red and one for the blue. That's not how you do law enforcement. That's dictatorship crap that happens in other countries like China, like North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, many Islamic countries. Y'all know who Dan Bondrago is? He's been on Fox News a lot. I may have just butchered his last name. I'm sorry. He's a former FBI agent. Did a lot of great work in law enforcement. He was Secret Service for a while. He has a podcast here on YouTube, which will probably be taken down too real soon, as I'm sure mine will. Go listen to him. His shit's together. He is just straight on right with everything that comes out of his mouth. I'm amazed at his composure because I'm not politically correct. He and I share the same beliefs and values, but yet I just let it fly. That's how I am. That's how I roll, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Because tech companies may silence my freedom of speech by taking me down. But as far as the left and the Democrats are concerned, I think you're the real domestic terrorist. I think members of the Democrat Party up in Washington, D.C. are the real domestic terrorist. That's what I believe. That's how I see things. Folks, you have many places to be tonight. You chose to be here. For that, I am very, very grateful. Please like this video when it gets put up. It takes about 15, 20 minutes after I'm done before it's up and running properly as an actual video on YouTube. Please share it, because I can't anymore. Facebook has stopped me from sharing my stuff. Twitter banned me for life. And YouTube is, one or two things will happen very, very soon. Either YouTube will remove this channel like they're doing conservatives and Republicans all across the nation, or I'm leaving it. And once we're able to start live streaming again at the website, DouglasDucote.com, YouTube can kiss my white ass, because I will never be a part of this platform ever again. Anything Google related, to include this iPhone, fuck them and their communist, socialist agenda. I didn't serve this country for that kind of bullshit. And I'll be damned if I'm going to stay on this platform any longer than I have to. So once we have the live streaming ability back up and running, for those of you that are just joining and don't know, we went through a period of time where we lost our producer and we had to start all over again. And we got the website up. It's doing great things. We've been able to update it and add things, but the live streaming stuff is coming. And when it does, fuck YouTube. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, our president, and our country. God bless America. God, we need you now more than ever before. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day. Go to DouglasDucote.com and sign up. I'll be putting out one or two videos between now and our next show on Tuesdays. Remember, we're live at 8 p.m. Central, Tuesdays and Thursdays. God bless everyone. Have a great evening.